The first thing Goku noticed was the silence. Not the kind that came after a fight, when dust settled, and people counted the ones who didn't stand up. This silence was stitched into the air itself, soft, patient, ordinary. It smelled like rain on stone and ink on paper. It did not tremble with the expectation of violence. He lay in a field outside a city that looked like it had never seen a god fall from the sky. His body ached with the memory of Beerus' blow. But the ache was wrong too, hollow where he should have been. He reached inward instinctively for the familiar blaze. Nothing answered. Goku sat up, blinking at the gray-blue horizon. Chimneys smoked in the distance. A narrow road cut through wet grass. A train whistle cried somewhere far away, lonely and human. No gods, he muttered, voice rough. No monsters. His stomach growled, immediate and shameless. Probably bread. He stood, wobbled, steadied himself. His clothes were torn, but the world didn't care. No spectators, no announcer, no rising music, just the small sound of his feet in damp grass, and the steady, relentless truth that he didn't know where he was. He found the city by walking toward it like it was a puzzle that would eventually offer food. The streets were narrow and clean, buildings stone and wood, windows glowing warm behind curtains. People passed him with cautious glances, not fear of a fighter, fear of a stranger. He tried smiling. It came out wrong. Too bright, too sudden. A woman carrying a basket tightened her grip and hurried away. Okay, Goku whispered to himself. New rule, less me. He turned a corner and nearly collided with a young woman stepping out of a building with a brass plaque. He stopped so quickly his foot skidded on wet cobbles. She did not flinch. She was slim, posture precise, blonde hair braided neatly. Her arms were metal, hands of polished mechanism tucked into gloves. Her eyes were blue and steady, as if she'd trained herself to look at anything without breaking. Goku froze, halfway through an apology. The woman inclined her head. Are you lost? Her voice was calm, not cold. Like a letter written carefully, each word chosen, each syllable placed. Goku opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. Yeah, he admitted, then added quickly but politely. A faint pause. Polite lost, she repeated, as if filing the phrase away. Goku rubbed the back of his neck. I'm Goku. The woman's gaze flicked over his torn clothes, his bare feet, the way he carried strength like a habit even without power. Violet Evergarden, she said. I am an auto-memory doll. Goku blinked. Like a robot? Violet's eyes held his. No. He winced. Sorry, I'm really bad at words. Violet nodded as if that explained everything. Then you are in a fortunate place. She led him inside. The building smelled of paper and wax, an old wood warmed by sunlight. People sat at desks, heads bent, writing like it mattered. Violet moved through them with quiet purpose. Goku followed like a large, confused shadow. A man with kind eyes and a worn smile looked up. Violet, is this? A client, Violet said, then looked at Goku. Do you require a letter? Goku stared. I don't know. The man's smile softened. We can help with that. That was how it began, not with a punch, but with a question Goku couldn't answer. In the days that followed, then weeks, Goku learned the city's rhythms. He learned that bread existed in 100 forms, and all of them were good. He learned that shoes were weapons designed by cruel minds, because he borrowed a pair and squeaked down the street like a guilty mouse until Violet quietly suggested he walk normally, and he whispered, mortified that his feet were betraying him. He learned he could lift a wagon one-handed without breaking a sweat, but could not write a simple sentence without his grip snapping the pen. Once, he tried to help in the office, and crushed an ink tray so thoroughly that one of the clerks, deadpan, told him he had murdered stationery. Goku stared at the ink splattered across his shirt. I saved it? You killed it, the clerk replied, and Violet, very seriously, placed bread in Goku's hands like a peace offering. You are quieter when you are eating, she said. Is that why you keep giving me food? He whispered. Yes, Violet answered, and for a heartbeat her eyes looked almost amused. They delivered letters together. At first, Goku thought it would be easy. Walk, hand someone paper, leave. But Violet moved through people the way a healer moved through wounds. She listened, eyes steady, letting silence do work before words ever arrived. She typed letters for fathers who couldn't apologize, for widows who couldn't stop shaking, for children whose small hands trembled as they asked for one sentence that might keep someone from leaving. Goku carried parcels, opened doors, lifted fallen crates, and learned, painfully, that some injuries didn't flinch at strength. One afternoon, rain hammering the rooftops, they sat on a covered step outside a house, where a soldier had refused to receive a letter from his brother. He won't read it, Goku whispered, frustrated, fists clenching. I could make him. Violet's metal fingers touched his wrist lightly, not restraining, reminding. He must choose, she said. Goku swallowed. Why don't you fight here? He asked her, half choking on the helplessness. Violet's gaze drifted to the rain. There is fighting, she said quietly. It is only different. Goku stared at her, the way she held herself like someone who had once been a weapon, and was learning how to be a person. I'm really strong, he confessed, voice low, but I don't know how to do this. Violet looked at him. Then learn. He did. He learned to sit with people's pain without trying to punch it away. He learned to wait through silence without filling it with noise. He learned that Violet's calm wasn't emptiness, it was effort. And Violet, slowly, learned something else. That Goku's strength didn't always destroy. One night in the hospital ward, a man woke screaming. Trapped in a memory he couldn't climb out of. Nurses froze, terrified of making it worse. Violet moved like a whisper, took his hand, and began to speak, not with a perfect phrase, but with simple truth. You are here, she said softly. You are safe. Breathe. The man's gaze skittered wild until it snagged on Goku. Goku stood in the doorway, huge and helpless, holding a tray of bread he'd been asked to deliver. His instinct was to step back, to disappear. He had been loud in other worlds. Here, he felt like a storm in a glass room. Violet's eyes flicked to him once. Then she nodded an invitation. Goku stepped forward slowly, and sat on the floor, at the edge of the bed, hands open on his knees. He didn't say anything. He simply stayed. The man's screaming broke into ragged breaths. Violet watched Goku as if seeing him properly for the first time. Not as power, not as danger, presence. Afterward, when the ward was quiet again, Violet walked beside Goku down the hallway. Thank you, she said. Goku blinked. For what? I didn't do anything. You stayed. Violet replied. Goku swallowed hard, then tried to hide it with humor. Yeah, I'm good at floor sitting. Violet's lips didn't curve, but her eyes softened. You are. He didn't understand what that warmth meant yet. Violet didn't either, but it began to exist between them in shared silence. A steady thing. Not loud, not fast, something that grew when they weren't chasing it. Then the world tore. It happened at the post office in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. Light split the air like cloth ripping. Papers flew. Ink spilled. A seam opened in the room, clean and wrong. And a man stepped out wearing calm like armor. Found you, he said, smiling at Goku as if they were old friends. Goku threw his body between Violet and the seam without thinking. No aura flared. No power answered. Just muscle and instinct. The man's eyes glittered. A world that heals with words, he murmured. How delightful. Violet's voice was steady. Who are you? A seam, the man replied softly. A bridge. He reached for a letter, one Goku recognized. The strange paper that had arrived without sender. The one that felt like a tether. And the moment he touched it, Violet's name appeared on the page, like ink learning her. Goku's blood turned cold. The seam man smiled. Now I have a second tether, he murmured. A voice. That night, in a small inn on the eastern line, where the land still carried old war scars, the seam man waited under a lantern like a polite predator, and promised he would tear the world open, wherever it was weakest unless Goku came to the scar. Goku wanted to run. Home tugged at him like a heartbeat. The seam man made it worse by opening a window to Goku's world, letting Gohan's voice slip through. Dad! Goku's knees nearly buckled. His chest split open. Violet's metal fingers held his sleeve, not dragging him back, not pleading, holding on. Goku looked at her, and for the first time he understood love wasn't an explosion. It was staying with someone in the moment when leaving would be easy. He turned toward the seam and forced words through his throat like they were weights. Gohan! He whispered, voice shaking. I'm okay. Don't chase it. Dad, come home. Gohan cried. Goku closed his eyes. I'm staying, he said, and tasted grief like iron. Tell Mom The seam man smiled and snapped the window shut, cutting home away like a page torn clean. Goku stood trembling in the mud, grief burning, fists clenched then forced open. Violet's voice was quiet beside him. You chose. Yeah. Goku whispered, throat raw. I chose. The seam man's anger turned clever. He stole Goku's voice with a stroke of pale light, carving silence across Goku's throat so no sound could come out. He tried to turn Violet's hands into puppets with a pen that wrote directly on reality. Goku couldn't speak, so he held. He took Violet's metal hands in his, steady and gentle, stopping the forced movements by refusing to let go. Violet leaned in until her forehead touched his, contact like a wire connecting two hearts. Her whisper was for him alone. I am not a door, she breathed. Goku mouthed the words back, silent and fierce. You are not a door. The pen dove for his mouth like a needle to stitch him permanently. Goku bit it. His teeth scraped metal. Ink tasted like lightning. He snapped the pen in his jaw with a brutal crack, and spat the broken pieces into the mud. The mechanism faltered. His voice broke free, hoarse, raw, but real. No, Goku rasped. And the word hit the air like thunder. Violet stepped forward then, eyes blazing with quiet fury, and typed what the seam man could not rewrite. My name is not a door. She read aloud, voice steady. We are not yours. The floating letters, stolen confessions, weaponized pain, began to fall like snow, released by a truth they couldn't obey. The seam man's calm finally shattered. He lifted both hands, preparing to tear the horizon open and swallow the town, the hospital, the world that had never asked for gods. Goku stepped in front of Violet again, shoulders squared, hands open. Violet's metal fingers brushed his sleeve, grounding. Why don't you fight here? She asked softly, eyes on him, not the enemy. Goku swallowed, voice rough, choosing every word like it mattered because it did. Because this world finally gave me something worth protecting quietly. The seam man hissed furious and lunged with reality itself. But the scarred field didn't tear. Not all the way. Because Goku didn't answer with violence. He answered with presence. With the stubborn, simple word he had learned to wield like a shield. No. The seam shuddered, wavering. As if reality itself didn't know how to keep opening against a refusal that carried love in it. The seam man's smile thinned into something sharp and frightened. He stepped backward. Coat still immaculate. Eyes still bright. This isn't over, he whispered. Goku panted, hands shaking, voice low. Yeah, he said, but it's not yours. The seam man vanished like a sentence cut short. Night settled back into the field. Mud, rust, moonlight, breath. Violet's typewriter was gone, swallowed. But her words remained, crumpled and damp in her hands like a rescued heart. Goku stood beside her, grief still heavy, fear still present, but something steadier underneath it. Violet's voice was quiet. You cannot return now. Goku nodded, staring at the empty sky where home had been. I know. A long silence stretched between them, not empty. Alive with everything they couldn't say yet. Then Violet held out a small sheet of paper, damp but legible. Typed earlier and rescued before the machine fell. It is for you, she said. Goku took it carefully, as if it might shatter. He read slowly, lips moving. The words were simple, precise. If your world calls you, do not believe that staying means you are weak. Goku's throat tightened. He looked up at Violet. Her eyes were steady and wet and fiercely human. I don't know how to do love, Goku admitted, voice rough, embarrassed by the honesty. Violet's metal fingers flexed once, then steadied. I do not know either, she said quietly, but I am learning. Goku swallowed. Me too. Behind them, from the distant road, the innkeeper's voice carried through the night like a blessing disguised as a threat. If you're done fighting the sky, someone's going to pay for the mud you dragged in. Goku blinked. Then a laugh broke out of him. Small, shaky, real. He looked at Violet. She's scary. Violet's eyes softened. Yes. Goku folded Violet's letter and tucked it inside his coat, pressed over his heart like an anchor. He didn't have Ki. He didn't have gods. He didn't have tournaments. But he had this, paper, and trust and a world that healed with words. He turned toward the dark horizon, where scars waited, and seams might return. And he did not run. He stayed, quietly, with Violet beside him.